Okay, so we're going to be looking at your own work of art, and you're going to be answering a couple of questions. And for the purpose of this demonstration, I'm using one of my paintings to talk about. So it's actually not that stressful. If you look to the back board there is a list of all the prompts that you need to know. And you do need to address every one of them, but you shouldn't feel like you have to memorize it. In fact, it's better that you just kind of improv it and you just speak from the heart. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to describe our artwork. So the description for this painting would be it's a picture of a group of cows, and there are cows that are in the foreground, there are cows that are in the middle ground, and then there's a cow off in the background. They're in a pasture, and the lighting indicates that it's evening light. You have nice cast shadows and strong light coming from the left-hand side of the painting there. And there's trees in the background and distant hills. All right, why did you paint that particular subject? And the reason I painted this particular subject is because I like open landscapes and I like animals. You know, I'm a vegetarian, so of course the cows I thought were interesting, and I also admired their coat patterns. I thought that looked like it would be fun to paint, especially since they're kind of like half in shadow, half in light. All right, what color palette did you use? So for this painting, this was actually one of my assignments for my university classes that I'm working on, and it was very specific. So the palette I used was umber, ultramarine, kind of a yellow deep, it's called ochre, and white. So I could only use those four colors, and from those four colors, I had to make everything else. So the blacks that you're seeing in there, they're not black. They're umber and ultra combined. So any type of red, I'm using brown to try and get. Any type of green, I'm mixing it with the kind of the yellow deep and the ultramarine, which is why it's not as vibrant as I would have liked it, but that was what I could do with what I was working with. So even the sky, it's not just ultramarine and white. There's actually a hint of the yellow ochre in there, the yellow color in there as well. So it was a little bit tricky trying to mix all those colors. And that palette, I'd say it's keyed, mid-key. There's a range of medium lights there. There's some darks in the foreground there, and then there's some lighter tones in the mid-tone, and then even lighter as you go farther back into the painting. Okay, what is one thing that frustrated you? So I'd say one thing that frustrated me was painting the cow on the left-hand side. So there's that cow there, and I had to repaint that cow about 3 times. The first time I painted it too close to the edge of the painting. When you do that, it's called a tangent. What happens is it effectively leads the viewer's eye right out the painting. That's about right where it was. So I had to shift it over by about 3 inches. And when you do that, you can still see your original painting, like the original cow underneath. So it was like confusing because it was like double image for a little while until I could cover that cow that I was trying to erase out of there. So that was a little tricky. All right. What's the disadvantage or the advantage to working large? So for something like this, where you're trying to get a lot of information on the cows, it's a good thing to go a little bit bigger. If I were working smaller, like say 11 by 14 or smaller than that, I'd have to use a smaller brush and get a little bit more fussy about what I was trying to portray. So it was easier to fit those cows in, especially because I wanted to give some attention to those cows in the foreground. Like I wanted to render them correctly. It was just easier to work larger on that. I thought that was a cool relationship they had between the two cows there. Okay, name one thing you are proud of in the painting. I'd say the thing that I really like about this painting is those two cows in the foreground. There's some nice lighting hitting them. The cow that's closest to us, I like how you can see the ribs on the cow, on the rib cage. You can see a little bit of the pelvis. I like how the light is kind of striking the shoulder. And I also like how the head of that cow closest to us is in shadow, but the cow that's next behind it, its head is illuminated. It's kind of interesting. Do you think the painting is successful? Why or why not? I think there are things that needs to be worked on this painting, but overall, it's reading well. I think it's moderately successful. There are still things that I would like to do. I would like to change some of the colors on it. I'd like to use a full palette. I'd like to kind of push back that area there behind the two cows, kind of behind that cow on the left, to make that recede back in space. But overall, it has a good feel to it. Okay, and that is it. That's all you really need to do.